The kiss happened in the hallway, 3 feet from where his son slept. Noah's back pressed against the wall, Elena's fingers tangled in his hair, both of them breathing like they'd forgotten how. Then a door creaked upstairs. They froze. Liam's voice called down, asking if anyone wanted tea. Noah felt Elena's pulse hammering against his chest as she stepped back, smoothed her blouse, and answered her son with a voice so steady it terrified him. That was the moment Noah understood. They'd crossed a line he couldn't uncross, in a house that wasn't his, with a woman who'd become everything he shouldn't want. If you're watching from anywhere in the world, drop your city in the comments so I can see how far this story travels. Hit that like button and stick around until the end, because what happens next changes everything. Noah Bennett sat on the edge of the twin bed, his son Micah asleep in the portable crib beside him, and tried to remember the last time he'd felt like he had solid ground beneath his feet. The ceiling of Liam's guest room had a water stain shaped like a map of some country he couldn't name, and he'd spent the past 3 nights staring at it instead of sleeping. 23 years old, a bachelor's degree in graphic design that hadn't led to a single job offer, and a 2-year-old who depended on him for everything. The math didn't work. It hadn't worked for months. His phone buzzed on the nightstand. Another freelance client, probably, asking for revisions he didn't have the energy to complete. He ignored it. Downstairs, he could hear Elena moving through the kitchen, the soft clink of dishes, water running, the familiar rhythm of someone who knew exactly where everything belonged. The house smelled like coffee and something baking, scents that made his chest ache with a longing he couldn't quite name. Noah had known Liam Carter since middle school. They'd survived bad haircuts, worse breakups, and a senior year road trip that had ended with both of them stranded in Nevada with $20 between them. When Noah's world had imploded 6 months ago, Sophie leaving in the middle of the night, taking half their furniture and all of his confidence, Liam had been the one to show up with pizza and the kind of silence that didn't demand explanations. And when the eviction notice came, when Noah had been 2 weeks from living out of his car with a toddler, Liam had offered his spare room without hesitation. "Stay as long as you need," Liam had said, like it was the simplest thing in the world, but nothing felt simple anymore. Noah pushed himself up, careful not to wake Micah, and pulled on a clean shirt. Well, cleanish. He'd been doing laundry in the middle of the night to avoid being in anyone's way, using the detergent Elena had left out for him without asking. The small kindnesses were everywhere in this house, so quiet he almost missed them. Extra towels folded on his bed, a nightlight plugged in near Micah's crib, a basket of teething toys that had appeared on the dresser one morning with no explanation. He made his way downstairs, following the sound of Elena's humming. She stood at the kitchen island, flour dusting her forearms, rolling out dough with the focused precision of someone who found peace in repetition. Morning light slanted through the window behind her, catching in her dark hair, threading silver through the strands she always kept pulled back in a low bun. She wore jeans and a cream-colored sweater, sleeves pushed to her elbows, and Noah felt something tighten in his chest that had nothing to do with gratitude. "Morning," he said, his voice rough from sleep. Elena looked up, and her face softened into a smile that made him forget, just for a second, how badly he'd been failing at everything. "Good morning. Coffee's fresh. I'm making cinnamon rolls, Liam's favorite, but I made extra." "You didn't have to do that." "I know." She went back to rolling the dough, movements efficient and sure. "But I wanted to." "How did Micah sleep?" "Like a rock. I'm the one who can't seem to figure it out." Noah poured himself coffee, black, and leaned against the counter. The kitchen was spotless, every surface gleaming, a stark contrast to the chaos of his old apartment where dishes had piled up and the trash had overflowed more often than not. "I keep thinking I'm going to wake up and he'll have figured out how to climb out of that crib." "They're more resilient than we give them credit for," Elena said. "And so are you." Noah didn't know what to say to that, so he drank his coffee and watched her work. There was something hypnotic about it, the way she folded the dough, brushed it with butter, sprinkled cinnamon and sugar with a practiced hand. He'd been in this house for 4 days, and he still felt like an intruder, someone who didn't belong in the clean, ordered world Elena had built. But she never made him feel that way. She moved around him like he'd always been there, asked questions that invited real answers, listened without the edge of judgment he'd grown used to from everyone else. "Liam's still asleep?" Noah asked. "He got in late. Some work thing." Elena cut the dough into neat spirals, arranging them in a baking dish with the same care she seemed to apply to everything. He mentioned he might have to travel this weekend, a conference in Seattle. He didn't tell me. It came up yesterday. He's been stressed about it. Doesn't want to leave you here alone so soon after you moved in. I'll be fine, Noah said, though the thought of Liam being gone made his stomach twist. Not because he couldn't handle a few days alone with Micah, but because the house would feel different, bigger, quieter, more dangerous in ways he couldn't articulate. Elena slid the dish into the oven and set a timer, then turned to face him fully. She was 52, Liam had mentioned once, though Noah would have guessed younger. There were lines at the corners of her eyes, a certain weariness in the set of her shoulders, but also something vital and alive that drew him in despite himself. She studied him with an intensity that made him want to look away, but he didn't. "You're doing better than you think," she said quietly. "I know it doesn't feel that way right now, but you are." "How can you tell?" "Because you're here, because you didn't give up. That counts for more than you realize." Noah felt his throat tighten. He set his coffee down before his hands could start shaking. "I didn't have a choice." "There's always a choice. You chose your son. That's not nothing." Upstairs, Micah started to fuss, the soft whimpering that meant he'd be fully awake in about 30 seconds. Noah pushed off the counter, grateful for the escape. "I should go," Elena said, waving him off. "I'll bring you a roll when they're done." Noah took the stairs 2 at a time, his heart pounding harder than it should. By the time he reached the guest room, Micah was sitting up in the crib, rubbing his eyes with chubby fists, his hair sticking up in every direction. The kid looked like Sophie, same blue eyes, same stubborn chin, and some mornings that was almost too much to bear. But then Micah saw him and grinned, all gums and joy, and Noah felt the familiar rush of love so fierce it erased everything else. "Hey, buddy," Noah said, lifting him out. Micah immediately grabbed his nose, giggling. Yeah, you're hilarious." They went through the morning routine, diaper change, clean clothes, a sippy cup of milk that Micah only half finished before throwing it on the floor. Noah had just gotten him settled with some blocks when Elena appeared in the doorway, a plate in her hands. "Fresh out of the oven," she said, setting it on the dresser. "And I brought one for Micah too, cut up small." "You're going to spoil us," Noah said, but he was already reaching for the plate. The cinnamon roll was still warm, icing melting into the swirls. He took a bite and nearly groaned. "This is amazing." "My grandmother's recipe." Elena sat on the edge of the bed, watching Micah stack blocks with intense concentration. "She used to make them every Sunday. I hated how much work it was when I was young, but now I'm grateful she taught me." "Does Liam help?" Elena laughed, the sound low and genuine. "Liam can barely make toast without setting off the smoke alarm. His talents lie elsewhere." Noah grinned despite himself. Odd. It was true. Liam was brilliant with code, could build a website from scratch in an afternoon, but the kitchen defeated him. "I remember the time he tried to make spaghetti in high school and somehow ended up with the noodles welded to the pot." "He called me in a panic," Elena said, her eyes bright with the memory. "I had to talk him through scraping it off with a butter knife." They fell into an easy rhythm, trading stories about Liam's various domestic disasters, and Noah felt some of the tension in his shoulders ease. Micah toddled over to Elena, offering her a block with the solemnity of a sacred gift. She took it, thanking him gravely, and Micah beamed before going back for more. Noah watched them, something warm and complicated unfurling in his chest. "He likes you," Noah said. "The feeling's mutual." Elena stacked another block on Micah's tower, her movements gentle. "He's a sweet boy. You're doing a good job with him." Noah looked down at his plate, the half-eaten cinnamon roll suddenly difficult to swallow. "Most days I feel like I'm just barely keeping him alive." "That's parenting. Even when you know what you're doing, it feels like chaos." Elena's voice was soft, understanding. "I remember when Liam was small, I used to lie awake at night convinced I was ruining him. Every decision felt impossible, but he turned out okay. More than okay." "Well?" Elena's smile turned wry. "He has his moments." Micah knocked over his tower and laughed, the sound bright and uncomplicated. Noah felt the familiar ache of loving something so much it scared him. What if he screwed this up? What if Sophie had been right to leave, right to decide he wasn't enough? Elena seemed to read his thoughts. She reached over and squeezed his shoulder, the touch brief but grounding. "You're enough, Noah. I hope you know that." He didn't, but he wanted to believe her. The weekend came too fast. Liam left Friday morning, his suitcase packed with the kind of precision that only a programmer could achieve, every shirt folded to identical dimensions. Noah walked him to the door, Micah balanced on his hip. "You sure you're good?" Liam asked for the third time. "We're fine. Go network or whatever it is you do at these things. Mostly drink bad coffee and pretend to care about keynote speeches." Liam grinned, but there was something searching in his expression. "Mom will be here if you need anything." "I know. We'll be okay." Liam hesitated, then pulled Noah into a one-armed hug, careful not to crush Micah between them. "Thanks for being here, man. I know it's not ideal, but I'm glad you're safe." Noah's throat went tight. "Me too." After Liam left, the house settled into a different kind of quiet. Noah spent the morning playing with Micah, answering emails from clients who wanted changes yesterday, trying not to notice how aware he was of Elena's presence downstairs. She was working in the small office off the living room, teaching an online seminar about landscape architecture. Her field, Liam had explained, though she'd scaled back after her divorce 5 years ago. Noah could hear her voice sometimes, patient and articulate, explaining design principles to students he couldn't see. Around noon, she emerged, reading, glasses perched on her nose, looking pleasantly rumpled. "I'm making lunch. Grilled cheese, okay? You don't have to keep feeding us." "I'm already cooking. It's easier to make extra." She glanced at Micah, who was chewing on the ear of a stuffed rabbit. "Does he eat regular food yet?" "Cut up small, yeah. He's obsessed with cheese." "A boy after my own heart." They ate together at the kitchen table, Micah in the high chair Elena had pulled out of storage without being asked. Noah watched him smash cheese between his fingers, utterly content, and felt the weight of the past few months lift just slightly. Maybe this could work. Maybe he could build something here, even if it was temporary. "What are you working on?" Elena asked, nodding toward his laptop. "Logo redesign for a boutique in Portland. 3rd revision. They can't decide if they want modern or vintage." "Which do you think?" Noah blinked. No one ever asked him that. Clients told him what they wanted, and he made it happen. "Honestly, I think they need something that bridges both. Clean lines, but with a nod to classic typography. Make it feel established without being dated." "Show me?" He pulled up the file, feeling suddenly self-conscious. Elena leaned in, studying the screen with the same focused attention she gave everything. She smelled like vanilla and something herbal, and Noah forced himself to concentrate on the design, not the way her shoulder brushed his. "This one," she said, pointing to the third option he'd mocked up. "It's perfect. Why didn't you lead with that?" "They liked the others better in the first round." "Then they're wrong." Elena sat back, decisive. "Trust your instincts, Noah. You're talented. Don't let people talk you into mediocrity." He stared at her, something shifting in his chest. Sophie used to tell him he should get a real job, that design was a hobby, not a career. His parents had stopped asking about work altogether, the silence somehow worse than criticism. But Elena looked at his screen like she saw something valuable, and he wanted to believe her so badly it hurt. "Thank you," he managed. "I mean it." Her gaze held his, steady and warm. "You have a gift. Don't forget that." The afternoon stretched into evening. Noah put Micah down for a nap and returned to find Elena in the living room, curled up on the couch with a book and a glass of wine. She looked up as he entered, and something in the air shifted, grew heavier. "Want some?" she asked, gesturing to the bottle on the coffee table. "I opened a red." Noah hesitated. This felt like crossing a threshold, but he couldn't name exactly why. "Sure." She poured him a glass, and he sat in the armchair across from her, trying to find a position that didn't feel awkward. The wine was good, rich and smooth, and he took a larger sip than he meant to. "Liam said you and Sophie were together since college," Elena said, her tone carefully neutral. "High school, actually. We were supposed to get married after graduation, but then I got her pregnant sophomore year, and everything accelerated." Noah stared into his wine. "She tried." "I know she did. But I think she woke up one day and realized this wasn't what she wanted. And Micah," She loves him, in her way, but she's not ready to be a mom. Maybe she never will be. The admission tasted bitter. She sends money sometimes. Not enough to help, but enough that I know she's thinking about him. That must be hard. What's hard is wondering if she's right. If I'm the wrong person for this. Noah drained his glass, the wine loosening something in him. Some days I look at him and think, how am I supposed to raise a whole human when I can't even keep my own life together? Elena set her book aside, her expression intent. Can I tell you something? Please. When Liam's father left, Liam was 7. I was 32 and had spent my entire adult life being someone's wife. I didn't know how to balance a checkbook. I'd never filed taxes alone. My degree was half finished, and I had a son who kept asking when Daddy was coming home. She paused, her fingers tightening around her glass. I was terrified every single day, but I got up anyway. I finished school. I built a career. I learned how to be enough, even when it felt impossible. How? Noah's voice cracked. One day at a time, one decision at a time, and by accepting help when it was offered. Elena's smile was gentle. You're here because you knew you couldn't do it alone. That's not weakness, Noah. That's wisdom. He couldn't look at her. If he did, he'd fall apart, and he'd spent too many nights crying in the shower already. I keep waiting to feel like I know what I'm doing. You'll be waiting a long time, but that's okay. Nobody knows. We're all just guessing and hoping we don't break anything irreparably. Noah laughed, the sound wet and painful. That's comforting, isn't it? Elena stood, and for a moment he thought she was leaving, but she crossed to his chair and knelt beside it, her hand covering his. You're not alone in this. Not anymore. Her touch was warm, grounding, and Noah made the mistake of meeting her eyes. She was close enough that he could see the flecks of gold in her brown irises, the way her pupils dilated slightly as their gazes locked. The moment stretched, pulled taut, and Noah felt his breath catch. Elena pulled back first, rising smoothly to her feet. I should start dinner. Are you hungry? Starving, Noah lied because his appetite had vanished the second she'd touched him. They cooked together, an unspoken agreement to pretend nothing had shifted. Elena made pasta while Noah chopped vegetables, their movements synchronized in the small kitchen. They talked about easy things, books they'd read, places they wanted to visit, the absurdity of reality television. But underneath it all, Noah felt the current running between them, invisible and undeniable. Micah woke up cranky, which gave Noah an excuse to escape. He spent the next hour coaxing his son into eating dinner, giving him a bath, reading the same board book 4 times until Micah's eyes finally drooped. By the time he got the kids settled, it was past 8, and Noah felt hollowed out with exhaustion. He found Elena in the kitchen, cleaning up. You didn't have to do that. I was already here. She dried her hands on a towel, then turned to face him. Is he down? Finally, I think the weekend threw off his schedule. Kids are like that, sensitive to change. Elena leaned against the counter, her expression thoughtful. Do you want more wine? I opened a second bottle. Noah knew he should say no, knew that the smart thing, the safe thing, was to go upstairs and put as much distance between them as possible. But he was tired of being smart and safe, tired of doing everything right and ending up with nothing. Yeah, he said, I do. They moved to the living room again, but this time Noah sat on the couch, leaving enough space that it didn't feel presumptuous. Elena filled both their glasses and settled beside him, closer than before, but not quite touching. The lamp in the corner cast soft light, and outside the window rain had started to fall, tapping against the glass in a steady rhythm. Can I ask you something? Noah said. Anything. Do you ever get lonely? Elena took a long sip of her wine before answering. All the time. I love my work. I love Liam. But yes, there are days when the house feels too big and too quiet, and I wonder if this is all there is. I'm sorry, that was too personal. No. She looked at him, her gaze direct. I'm glad you asked. Most people don't want to know the real answer. What would the real answer be? Elena was quiet for a long moment, her fingers tracing the rim of her glass. That I thought by now I'd have it figured out. That I'd feel settled, complete. But instead, I feel like I'm still waiting for my life to start, even though I know that's ridiculous. This is my life. This is all any of us get. Noah felt something crack open inside him. I know exactly what you mean. Do you? Every day. I look at Micah and think, I'm his whole world. I'm supposed to have answers, but I'm just as lost as I was at 18, maybe more. He set his glass down, his hands restless. And then I feel guilty for even thinking that, because I'm supposed to be grateful, supposed to be enough. But I'm not. I'm just scared and tired and so fucking lonely I can barely breathe sometimes. Elena's hand found his knee, the touch light but deliberate. You don't have to pretend with me. I don't know how to be anything else anymore. Try, she said softly, just for tonight. Be exactly who you are, with no apologies. Noah looked at her, really looked, let himself see the want in her eyes that mirrored his own. The rain grew louder, and somewhere in the house a clock chimed 9. They were alone. Liam was hundreds of miles away. Micah was asleep, and Elena was watching him like he was the only solid thing in a world that wouldn't stop spinning. He should pull back, should make an excuse, retreat to the safety of his room and the careful distance they'd maintained. But he was so tired of should, so tired of doing the right thing and getting nothing in return. Elena, he said, and her name tasted like possibility. Noah. She shifted closer, her hand sliding up his thigh, and he stopped breathing. Tell me to stop. He couldn't. He didn't want to. Noah closed the distance between them, his hand cupping her face, and Elena made a soft sound that unraveled him completely. The kiss was slow at first, tentative, like they were both testing the reality of it, but then Elena's fingers tangled in his hair, pulling him closer, and whatever restraint they'd been holding on to shattered. She tasted like wine, and something sweeter, and Noah couldn't get enough. His hands found her waist, the curve of her spine, and she arched into him with a hunger that matched his own. They were clumsy with it, all heat and need, knocking over a wine glass that neither of them noticed. Elena pulled him down until he was covering her, the couch too small but perfect. And Noah forgot everything except the way she felt beneath him, the sounds she made, the way she said his name like a prayer. We shouldn't, Elena gasped against his mouth, even as her hands pulled his shirt free. I know, Noah said, but he didn't stop kissing her, didn't stop touching her like she was the answer to every question he'd been too afraid to ask. They moved together, frantic and desperate, chasing something neither of them could name. Noah felt alive for the first time in months, felt wanted and needed and real, in a way that had nothing to do with being a father or a failure or anything except this. Elena's skin under his hands, her breath in his ear, the way she held him like he mattered. Afterward, they lay tangled together on the couch, Noah's heart still racing, Elena's fingers tracing patterns on his chest. The rain had stopped, leaving the world outside quiet and washed clean. Inside, nothing had changed except everything. We can't do this again, Elena whispered, but her hand was still in his hair, still holding him close. I know, Noah said, and wondered if he was lying. They stayed like that until the cold drove them apart, until reality reasserted itself and they had to face what they'd done. Elena stood first, adjusting her clothes, and Noah watched her, memorizing the way the lamplight caught in her hair. I should check on Micah, he said, because he didn't know what else to say. Elena nodded, her expression unreadable. Good night, Noah. Good night. He took the stairs slowly, his body still humming with the memory of her touch. Micah was asleep, one arm flung over his head, utterly oblivious to the way his father's world had just tilted sideways. Noah stood over the crib, his chest tight with too many feelings to sort through. What had he done? What had they done? But beneath the guilt and the fear, there was something else, something warm and fierce that felt dangerously close to hope. Noah woke to sunlight streaming through the guest room window and the immediate sickening memory of what he'd done. For a few blessed seconds, his mind was blank, registering only Micah's soft breathing from the crib and the ache in his shoulders from the too small mattress. Then it all came flooding back. Elena's mouth on his, her hands in his hair, the way she'd said his name like it meant something sacred and forbidden all at once. He sat up too quickly, his head spinning. The clock on the nightstand read 7:15. Micah would be awake soon, demanding breakfast and attention and all the normal things that didn't care about the fact that Noah had just blown up whatever stability they'd managed to find here. His phone buzzed, a text from Liam. "Morning, conference is boring as hell. How's everything there?" Noah stared at the screen, his thumb hovering over the keyboard. What was he supposed to say? "Great, man. Slept with your mom last night. Pass the syrup?" He typed back. "All good. Micah's still asleep. Hotel nice?" The response came immediately. "If you like beige and the smell of industrial carpet cleaner, miss my own bed already." Noah set the phone down before he could say something stupid. Guilt sat in his stomach like spoiled food, but underneath it was something worse. The traitorous part of him that wanted to go downstairs and see if Elena looked at him differently now. If last night had been real or just some fever dream brought on by too much wine and loneliness. Micah stirred, making the little grunting sounds that meant he'd be crying for attention in about 30 seconds. Noah went to him, grateful for the distraction. The kid's face lit up when he saw him, and Noah felt his chest constrict. This was what mattered. Not whatever complicated mess he'd created with Elena. Just this small person who needed him to be better than he was. "Hey, buddy," Noah said, lifting him out. Micah immediately grabbed his ear and yanked. "Yeah, I deserve that." They went through the morning routine in the quiet sanctuary of the guest room. Noah changed Micah's diaper, got him dressed in the tiny jeans and dinosaur shirt that still seemed impossibly small for a whole human being. He fed him a pouch of mashed sweet potato and listened to him babble nonsense syllables that almost sounded like words. Normal. Safe. Nothing like the chaos churning in Noah's head, but he couldn't hide up here forever. Eventually, Micah would need real food, and Noah would need coffee, and they'd have to face whatever was waiting downstairs. The kitchen was empty when Noah finally worked up the courage to descend. Coffee sat in the pot, still warm, and there was a note on the counter in Elena's neat handwriting. Had to run errands. Help yourself to anything. E. Noah didn't know if he felt relieved or disappointed. He poured coffee with shaking hands and set Micah up in the high chair with some cut-up banana. The house felt too quiet, every creak and settling sound making Noah's nerves jump. He kept replaying last night, the weight of Elena against him, the desperate way they'd moved together, the look in her eyes when she'd said they couldn't do it again. She was right. They couldn't. Liam was his best friend, had given him a place to stay when no one else would. This house was supposed to be safe harbor, not a place where Noah destroyed the only real friendship he had left. And Elena, whatever she was feeling, whatever had driven her to kiss him back, she deserved better than some broke 23-year-old who couldn't even take care of his own kid without help. But knowing all that didn't change the fact that Noah could still feel her hands on his skin, still hear the sound she'd made when he'd kissed her neck. Didn't change the way his pulse jumped at the thought of seeing her again. Micah threw a piece of banana on the floor, then looked at Noah like he expected applause. Noah forced a smile. "Good arm, champ. Let's work on your aim." The morning dragged. Noah tried to work on the logo design, but he couldn't focus, kept catching himself staring at the same layer for minutes at a time without actually seeing it. He played blocks with Micah, made him lunch, put him down for a nap that the kid fought like it was a personal insult. By the time Micah finally crashed, Noah felt wrung out and restless, trapped in a house that suddenly felt too small and too full of memories from the night before. He heard the front door open around 2. His whole body went tense, every muscle locked. Elena's footsteps in the entryway, the rustle of shopping bags. Noah stayed frozen on the couch, his laptop open to a design he wasn't working on, trying to decide if he should go out there or stay hidden like a coward. Elena made the decision for him. She appeared in the doorway, her arms full of grocery bags, her hair slightly windblown. She looked so normal, so composed, that Noah wondered if he'd imagined everything. "Hi," she said, her voice carefully neutral. "Is Micah asleep?" "Just went down." Noah stood, then didn't know what to do with his hands. "Do you need help with those?" "I've got it, but thank you." She disappeared into the kitchen, and Noah followed because the alternative was sitting there drowning in awkwardness. Elena was already unpacking groceries with brisk efficiency, vegetables, pasta, a carton of strawberries that she set aside separately. She didn't look at him. "Elena," Noah started, then had no idea how to finish. "We should talk," she said, still organizing produce. "But not here." Not now. Liam's been texting me all morning about his flight tomorrow. He'll be back by evening. Right. Okay. Noah leaned against the counter, watching her hands move. Are you? I'm fine. Elena finally looked at him, and the flash of vulnerability in her eyes made Noah's chest ache. Last night we both needed something, and we were alone, and it happened. But it can't happen again. I know. Do you? She set down the bag she was holding, her shoulders tight. Because I've been thinking about it all morning, and I can't figure out how we got here. You're Liam's friend. You're living in my house with your son, and I'm... What? Noah said when she didn't continue. Old enough to know better. Elena's laugh was bitter. I'm 52, Noah. You're barely older than Liam. What were we thinking? I wasn't thinking. You make me feel like I'm not invisible. Like I matter as more than just Micah's dad or the guy who can't get his life together. Noah ran his hand through his hair, frustrated with himself. But you're right. We can't do this. I can't do this to Liam. Elena nodded, something easing in her expression. So we agree. It was a mistake. We move past it. We move past it, Noah echoed, trying to believe it. They stood there in the kitchen, 2 feet of space between them that felt like miles, and Noah wondered how something that had felt so right 12 hours ago could be so completely wrong in the daylight. Elena went back to unpacking groceries, and Noah excused himself, mumbling something about checking on Micah. He took the stairs slowly, his heart heavy with the weight of everything they weren't saying. The rest of Saturday passed in careful politeness. They gave each other space, spoke only when necessary, moved through the house like dancers who knew the steps but had forgotten the music. Noah threw himself into work, finally finishing the logo redesign and sending it off with a prayer that the client would accept it this time. Micah woke up cranky and stayed that way, fussing through dinner and fighting the bedtime routine with renewed determination. By the time Noah got him settled, it was past 9 and he was exhausted. He thought about staying in his room, avoiding Elena completely. But the walls felt too close, and he could hear her downstairs, the faint sound of the television. The pull toward her was magnetic and infuriating, and Noah hated himself for not being stronger. He found her in the living room, curled up on the couch with a blanket, watching some nature documentary about wolves. She looked up when he entered, and for a second neither of them spoke. Can't sleep? She asked finally. Micah fought me tooth and nail tonight. I think he's getting another tooth. Noah stayed in the doorway, maintaining distance. What are you watching? Something about pack dynamics. It's soothing. Elena gestured to the armchair. You can stay if you want. I promise I'll behave. Noah smiled despite himself. That makes one of us. He sat, leaving the safe distance of the separate chair, and they watched wolves hunt in silence. On screen, the pack moved as one unit, each animal knowing its role, trusting the others. Noah thought about Liam coming home tomorrow, about having to look his friend in the eye and pretend nothing had changed, about living in this house with Elena and maintaining the careful fiction that they were just 2 people sharing space, nothing more. I called my sister today, Elena said during a commercial break. She lives in Boston. We don't talk as much as we should. What'd you tell her? That Liam's friend was staying with us, that I was helping with his son. Elena pulled the blanket tighter around herself. She asked if I was lonely. I told her I was fine. Are you? Are any of us? Elena looked at him, her eyes shadowed in the dim light. I think loneliness is just part of being human. We all walk around pretending we're fine, that we have it together, but inside we're all just looking for someone who sees us. You see me, Noah said quietly. That's the problem. The documentary came back on, but neither of them was really watching anymore. Noah felt the tension building again, that dangerous pull that had led them to the couch last night. He should leave, should go upstairs and put a locked door between them. But Elena was looking at him like he was a question she couldn't answer, and Noah had never been good at walking away from things that felt inevitable. Tell me about Liam's father, Noah said, desperate for something to break the moment. Elena blinked, surprised. Why? I want to know. Liam never talks about him. She was quiet for so long Noah thought she wouldn't answer. Then she sighed, her gaze drifting to the television without seeing it. His name was Marcus. We met in college, married too young, had Liam before either of us was ready. He was charming, brilliant, completely unreliable. He'd disappear for days, come back with grand plans that never materialized. I kept thinking he'd grow up, that having a son would change him. But it didn't. No, he left when Liam was 7, said he felt trapped, that he wasn't meant for this kind of life. Elena's voice was flat, matter of fact. I haven't seen him in 20 years. Liam got one postcard when he turned 18. That was it. I'm sorry. Don't be. It was the best thing that could have happened. I learned to stand on my own. Liam learned that you don't need someone who doesn't want to be there. She looked at Noah directly. But it's also why I'm careful. Why I don't let people in easily. But you let me in. I don't think I had a choice. Elena's smile was sad. You showed up broken and honest and trying so hard to be good for your son. And I saw myself 20 years ago. I wanted to help. I didn't plan on... She stopped, shaking her head. I didn't plan on any of this. Neither did I, Noah said. But I'm glad we talked. Even if it's complicated. Complicated, Elena laughed softly. That's one word for it. They finished watching the documentary in silence, and when it ended, Elena stood, folding the blanket with precise movements. I'm going to bed. You should too. Liam will be here tomorrow, and we both need to be ready. Ready for what? To pretend we're fine. Noah watched her leave, listened to her footsteps on the stairs, the soft click of her bedroom door closing. He sat alone in the dark living room, the weight of tomorrow pressing down on him. Liam would come home full of stories about the conference, about the people he'd met and the sessions he'd attended. He'd ask about the weekend, and Noah would have to lie with a smile. He'd have to sit across from his best friend at dinner and pretend his whole world hadn't shifted on its axis. Sleep didn't come easily that night. Noah lay awake, listening to the house settle, thinking about Elena in her room down the hall, thinking about Micah asleep beside him, innocent and unknowing, thinking about all the ways this could end badly and the one terrifying way it could end well. Sunday morning arrived with gray skies and the promise of rain. Noah heard Liam's car in the driveway around 5, hours earlier than expected. He was up with Micah anyway, the kid having decided that 4:30 was an acceptable wake-up time. Noah's heart kicked into overdrive as he heard the front door open, Liam's familiar footsteps in the entryway. Anybody home? Liam called out. Noah picked up Micah and headed downstairs, trying to arrange his face into something that didn't scream guilty. Liam was in the kitchen, looking rumpled and travel-worn, a coffee already in his hand. Hey! Liam's face lit up. Couldn't sleep on the plane. Figured I'd just drive straight through. How was it? Noah asked, and his voice sounded almost normal. Boring as predicted, but I made some good contacts. Liam reached over and ruffled Micah's hair. How's my little man? You been good for your dad? Micah babbled something that might have been mama or baba or complete nonsense, and Liam grinned. Noah felt his throat tighten. This was his best friend, the person who'd saved him when he had nowhere else to go. And Noah had... Everything okay here? Liam asked, his expression shifting to concern. You look exhausted. Micah's teething, rough couple of nights. The lie came easily, and that made it worse. Man, I don't miss those days. Well, I wasn't around for them, but Mom used to tell me horror stories about when I was cutting teeth. Liam poured himself more coffee. Where is she anyway? Still asleep, I think. As if summoned, Elena appeared in the doorway, wrapped in a burgundy robe, her hair loose around her shoulders. Noah's breath caught. He'd never seen her like this, unguarded, soft with sleep. Her eyes found his for just a second before sliding to Liam. You're home early, she said, moving to kiss her son's cheek. Couldn't stand another minute in that hotel. How was your weekend? Quiet. Productive. Elena's voice was steady, betraying nothing. I got some work done. Noah and I held down the fort. See? I knew you two would be fine. Liam looked between them, oblivious. What do you say we make a big breakfast? I'm starving, and I picked up some good coffee at the airport. They cooked together, the three of them moving around the kitchen in a rhythm that should have felt comfortable, but instead made Noah want to crawl out of his skin. Elena scrambled eggs while Liam told stories about the conference, about the guy who'd fallen asleep during a keynote, and started snoring loud enough to echo. Noah focused on cutting fruit for Micah, on keeping his hands busy and his eyes away from Elena. But he felt her presence like a physical force. Every time she passed behind him, every time their hands accidentally brushed reaching for the same thing, Noah's whole body went electric. And once, when Liam stepped out to grab his suitcase from the car, Elena's hand found Noah's wrist. Just for a second, her fingers pressing gently before letting go. "We're okay," she whispered. Noah nodded, not trusting his voice. The day unfolded with agonizing normalcy. Liam unpacked, caught up on emails, convinced Noah to watch a movie with him while Micah napped. They sat on the same couch where Noah had kissed Elena 2 nights ago, and Noah tried not to think about it, tried to focus on the explosions and car chases on screen. But his mind kept drifting to the way Elena had tasted, the sounds she'd made, the way she'd held him like he was precious. "You're quiet today," Liam said during a lull in the action. "Everything really okay?" "Yeah, just tired." Noah forced himself to meet his friend's eyes. "Thanks again for letting us stay here. I know it's a lot." "Are you kidding? It's been good having you around. House feels less empty." Liam paused. "And I think Mom likes the company too. She seemed happier this week." Guilt twisted Noah's stomach into knots. "She's been really kind to us. She's good at that, taking care of people." Liam's expression went soft. "After my dad left, she basically rebuilt herself from nothing. Went back to school, got her degree, built a whole career. I don't know how she did it. She's strong. Strongest person I know." Liam glanced toward the kitchen where Elena was working on her laptop. "I worry about her sometimes, you know. She's alone a lot. I keep telling her she should date, put herself out there, but she says she's happy as is." Noah's mouth went dry. "Maybe she is. Maybe. But everyone needs someone." Liam turned his attention back to the movie. "Anyway, I'm glad you're here. Both of you." The words hit like a punch. Noah excused himself, mumbling about checking on Micah, even though the kid was still asleep. He stood in the guest room, staring at his son's peaceful face, and tried to get his breathing under control. What was he doing? What were they doing? This wasn't some harmless attraction. This was going to blow up in both their faces if they weren't careful. Dinner that night was another exercise in controlled torture. Elena made roast chicken with vegetables, and they ate at the dining room table like a strange, fractured family. Liam talked about work, about a project he was excited to start. Elena asked questions, engaged and present. Noah pushed food around his plate and tried to contribute to the conversation in ways that didn't make him sound completely unhinged. "I've been thinking," Liam said as they were clearing dishes. "We should do something this week. Go out, the 3 of us. Give Noah a break from single dad duty for an evening." "That's sweet," Elena said. "But who would watch Micah?" "My neighbor, Mrs. Chen. She's retired, loves kids. I bet she'd jump at the chance." Liam looked at Noah. "What do you say? Dinner and maybe a movie? When's the last time you did something just for yourself?" Noah couldn't remember. Months? Maybe. Before Sophie left, definitely. "You don't have to do that." "I want to. Come on, it'll be fun. Mom, you in?" Elena's eyes flicked to Noah, something unreadable in their depths. "Sure, that sounds nice." "Perfect. I'll set it up for Friday." Liam grinned, pleased with himself, completely unaware of the tension crackling between the 2 people standing on either side of him. That night, after Micah was asleep and Liam had retreated to his room to catch up on sleep, Noah found himself unable to settle. He paced the guest room, his mind spinning. Friday, the 3 of them out together, pretending everything was normal. How was he supposed to survive that? A soft knock on the door made him freeze. He opened it to find Elena in the hallway, her expression urgent. "We need to talk," she whispered. Noah glanced toward Micah, then stepped into the hallway, pulling the door mostly closed behind him. "About what?" "Friday. We can't do this. It's too much." "I know. But how do we say no without making Liam suspicious?" Elena pressed her fingers to her temples. "I don't know. I can't think straight when you're this close." Noah realized she was right. They were standing inches apart, close enough that he could smell her shampoo. He stepped back, putting the wall between them. "What do we do?" "We go. We act normal. We get through it." Elena's voice was strained. And then we figure out how to be in the same house without what? Without wanting to touch you every time I see you. The confession hung in the air between them, dangerous and true. Noah's hands clenched into fists at his sides. Elena. I know, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. She started to turn away, but Noah caught her wrist. Don't apologize, I feel it too. Every second of every day since Friday night, I feel it too. They stared at each other in the dimly lit hallway, the house quiet around them except for the hum of the refrigerator downstairs and the distant sound of Liam's TV through his closed door. Noah knew he should let go, knew that holding onto her wrist like this was dangerous. But Elena wasn't pulling away, and the look in her eyes was killing him. This is impossible, she breathed. Yeah, we can't keep doing this. I know, but neither of them moved. Noah's thumb found her pulse point, felt it racing to match his own. Elena's free hand came up to his chest, resting over his heart. One more time, she whispered, just to get it out of our systems. Noah knew it was a terrible idea even as he was nodding, knew that one more time wouldn't be enough, would only make everything harder. But Elena was already pulling him toward her room, and he went without resistance, like a man drowning who'd stopped trying to save himself. Her room was at the end of the hall, furthest from Liam's. She closed the door softly behind them, and then they were kissing, desperate and clumsy, trying to be quiet even as everything in Noah screamed to make noise, to claim her in ways that left no doubt. Elena's hands were everywhere, pulling at his shirt, his belt, and Noah couldn't get enough of her skin, couldn't touch her fast enough. They fell onto her bed, and Noah had just enough presence of mind to think about locks and sounds, and the fact that Liam was 20 feet away before Elena was pulling him down, and he stopped thinking altogether. Afterward, they lay tangled in her sheets, both breathing hard. Reality crept back in slowly, along with the crushing weight of what they'd just done. Again. That was supposed to help, Elena said, her voice shaky. Did it? No. Noah pulled her closer, knowing he should leave, should sneak back to his room before Liam woke up and found them like this. But Elena fit against him perfectly, and for just a few more minutes, he let himself pretend this could be something other than a disaster waiting to happen. We have to stop, Elena murmured against his chest. Tomorrow, Noah said. We'll stop tomorrow. But they both knew it was a lie. Noah slipped out of Elena's room at 4 a.m, his heart hammering so loud he was certain it would wake the entire house. The hallway was dark and silent, but every floorboard seemed to creak under his weight, each sound magnified in the pre-dawn stillness. He made it back to the guest room without incident, easing the door closed behind him with trembling hands. Micah was still asleep, one small fist curled near his face, completely unaware that his father had just made the same catastrophic mistake twice. Noah didn't sleep after that. He lay in bed watching the ceiling slowly emerge from darkness as dawn broke, listening to the house wake up around him. Liam's alarm went off at 6:30. The shower ran. Coffee started brewing downstairs. Normal Monday morning sounds that felt like accusations. By the time Noah worked up the courage to face the day, Liam was already in the kitchen, dressed for work and scrolling through his phone. He looked up when Noah appeared with Micah on his hip, his expression bright and uncomplicated. Morning! Mom made muffins before she left for her seminar. They're still warm. Liam gestured to the counter where a plate sat covered with a dish towel. She left a note saying she won't be back until dinner, faculty meeting or something. Noah felt relief and disappointment war in his chest. Thanks. You good to hold down the fort today? I've got back-to-back meetings, probably won't be home until 6. We'll be fine. Liam grabbed his bag, pausing at the door. Oh, and I confirmed with Mrs. Chen for Friday. She's excited to meet Micah. Said she raised 4 kids of her own, so one toddler will be a piece of cake. You really don't have to do this. I want to. You've been through hell, Noah. Let me do something nice for you. Liam's smile was genuine, guileless. Besides, it'll be fun. I'll pick a place with good wine and better food. Mom deserves a night out too. The door closed behind him, and Noah stood alone in the kitchen with his son and his guilt. Micah squirmed to get down, and Noah set him on the floor, watching him toddle toward his toys with single-minded determination. At least one of them knew what they wanted. The muffins were blueberry lemon, still warm and perfect. Noah ate one standing at the counter, tasting nothing, and tried to figure out what the hell he was going to do. He couldn't keep sleeping with Elena. That much was obvious. But the thought of being in the same house with her, seeing her every day and pretending there was nothing between them, felt impossible. And Friday, dinner out with her and Liam playing happy family while the truth sat between them like a bomb waiting to detonate. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "It's Elena. Got your number from Liam's phone. We need to talk. Not today, but soon." E. Noah stared at the message, then deleted it, his hands shaking. Even seeing her name on his screen made him feel like he was coming apart. He spent the rest of the morning in a fog, going through the motions with Micah, responding to client emails, trying and failing to focus on anything that wasn't the memory of Elena's skin against his. The week crawled by in a haze of careful avoidance and stolen glances. Elena came home from her seminar Monday evening and barely looked at Noah through dinner. Tuesday, she had an evening class and didn't get back until after he'd put Micah to bed. Wednesday. Liam worked from home, his presence a constant reminder of everything Noah was betraying. They all moved around each other like planets in a deteriorating orbit, pulled by gravity they couldn't escape. Thursday night, Noah found Elena in the kitchen after midnight. He'd come down for water, thinking everyone was asleep, and nearly turned back when he saw her. She was sitting at the table in pajamas, a glass of wine in front of her, staring at nothing. "Couldn't sleep either?" she asked without looking up. Noah should have retreated, should have grabbed his water and gone back upstairs. Instead, he sat down across from her, the table a safe barrier between them. "No. Tomorrow's going to be difficult." "Yeah." Elena finally met his eyes, and the exhaustion there mirrored his own. "We can't keep doing this, Noah. It's killing me." "I know, but I don't know how to stop wanting you." "We don't have a choice. Liam," her voice cracked, "he's my son, and he's your best friend. We can't do this to him. So what do? We go to dinner tomorrow. We act normal. And then we figure out some distance." Elena took a long drink of wine. "Maybe you should start looking for your own place. I can help with deposits, first month's rent. I have some savings. I can't take your money." "Then what's your plan? Stay here indefinitely while we slowly destroy each other with guilt?" Elena's laugh was bitter. "I can't do it, Noah. I can't see you every day and pretend I don't." She stopped, shaking her head. "I'm sorry. This isn't fair to you." "None of this is fair to anyone." Noah reached across the table, then pulled his hand back before making contact. "But you're right. I need to find somewhere else. It's just going to take time." "I know. I'm not asking you to leave tomorrow. Just eventually." Elena stood, carrying her glass to the sink. "I'm going to bed. You should too. We both need to be functional tomorrow." She left without looking back, and Noah sat alone in the dark kitchen, feeling like he'd just lost something he never really had in the first place. Friday arrived with the kind of beautiful fall weather that felt like mockery. Clear skies, crisp air, leaves turning brilliant shades of gold and red. Noah spent the day trying not to think about the evening ahead, but anticipation sat under his skin like electricity. Liam came home early, energized and happy, talking about the restaurant he'd chosen and how much he was looking forward to a night out. "Mom said she'd meet us there some," Liam said, helping Noah pack a diaper bag for Mrs. Chen. "She had a thing in the city and won't make it back in time." Relief flooded through Noah. At least he wouldn't have to ride in the same car with her, wouldn't have to make small talk in close quarters. "Sounds good." Mrs. Chen turned out to be a tiny woman with steel gray hair and a smile that could power a small city. She took one look at Micah and declared him the most beautiful child she'd ever seen, which immediately won her points in Noah's book. She shooed them out the door with assurances that everything would be fine, and Noah tried to believe her. The restaurant was downtown, the kind of place with cloth napkins and a wine list that probably cost more than Noah made in a month. Elena was already there, sitting at a table by the window, and Noah's breath caught when he saw her. She'd worn a dark green dress that brought out the gold in her eyes, her hair down and loose around her shoulders. She looked beautiful and untouchable, and Noah wanted to turn around and walk out. "Mom, you look amazing," Liam said, kissing her cheek before sliding into the booth. Noah had no choice but to sit beside him, directly across from Elena. "Thank you, sweetheart. You both clean up nicely, too." Elena's smile was warm, but didn't quite reach her eyes. She looked at Noah for just a second before her gaze slid away. How was Micah when you left? Already in love with Mrs. Chen, Noah said, proud that his voice came out steady. I think he barely noticed we were leaving. Kids are resilient like that. The waiter appeared, and Liam ordered a bottle of wine that made Noah wince when he saw the price. But Liam waved off his concern, insisting this was his treat, that Noah deserved something nice. They ordered food, fancy Italian dishes with names Noah couldn't pronounce, and settled into conversation that felt almost normal if you ignored the undercurrent of tension humming beneath everything. So I have news, Liam said once their appetizers arrived. Remember that project I mentioned? The client wants to move forward. It's going to mean long hours for the next few months, but the money's incredible. That's wonderful, Elena said. You've worked hard for this. Yeah, but it also means I'm going to be pretty useless around the house, which is why I'm glad you're here, Noah. At least Mom won't be alone. Noah nearly choked on his wine. Elena's expression didn't change, but her knuckles went white around her fork. I'm perfectly capable of being alone, Liam. I know, but it's nice having people around, right? And Micah's great company. Liam grinned, oblivious to the bomb he'd just dropped. Actually, I was thinking, Noah, what if you stayed longer, like indefinitely? We could work out some kind of arrangement, help with bills or whatever. There's plenty of space, and honestly, I like having you there. Noah felt the floor drop out from under him. He couldn't look at Elena, couldn't risk seeing whatever was written on her face. That's generous, but I can't impose like that. You're not imposing. You're family, man. We take care of each other. Liam, Elena said, her voice carefully controlled. Maybe we should let Noah breathe. This is a lot to spring on him over dinner. Right, sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself. Liam took a drink, then changed subjects, launching into a story about a ridiculous bug in the code he'd been debugging all week. Noah tried to focus, tried to laugh at the right moments, and contribute to the conversation, but his mind was spinning indefinitely. Liam wanted him to stay indefinitely, which meant months of living under the same roof as Elena, pretending they were nothing more than friends. Months of torture disguised as generosity. He caught Elena's eye across the table and saw the same panic he felt reflected there. This was impossible. They'd agreed she couldn't do this, that he needed to find his own place. But how was he supposed to tell Liam no without explaining why? Without revealing that the reason he couldn't stay was because he was sleeping with Liam's mother? Dinner passed in a blur. The food was probably excellent, but Noah tasted nothing. He drank more wine than he should have, trying to dull the anxiety crawling up his spine. Elena was quiet, contributing less and less to the conversation as the meal went on. Liam, buoyed by his own good mood and the wine, didn't seem to notice. We should do this more often, Liam said as they waited for the check. This was great, don't you think, Mom? It was lovely, Elena said, but her smile was strained. And Noah, seriously, think about what I said, about staying. We can talk details later, but I meant it. You're welcome as long as you need. I appreciate that, Noah managed. Really, let me think about it. The ride home was worse than dinner. Noah was in the back seat of Liam's car, Elena in the passenger seat, and the space between them felt charged with everything they couldn't say. Liam talked the whole way, bouncing between topics, his energy inexhaustible. Noah watched the back of Elena's head, the way she occasionally nodded or murmured agreement, and wondered how much longer they could keep this up before something broke. Mrs. Chen reported that Micah had been an angel, had eaten all his dinner and gone to bed without a fuss. Liam paid her generously and walked her to her car, leaving Noah and Elena alone in the entryway for 30 seconds that felt like hours. I can't do this indefinitely, Elena whispered, her voice urgent. You have to tell him no. How? What reason do I give? I don't care. Make something up. But Noah, if you stay... Liam's footsteps on the porch cut her off. She stepped back just as he came through the door, and Noah turned away, heading for the stairs. I'm going to check on Micah, he said over his shoulder. Thanks for dinner, Liam. Any time, man. Sleep well. Noah made it to the guest room before his legs gave out. He sat on the edge of the bed, his head in his hands, and tried to remember how to breathe. This was unsustainable. He needed to find an apartment, needed to get out of this house before he destroyed the only friendship that had survived his life falling apart. But apartments cost money he didn't have, required deposits and references, and proof of income he couldn't provide. The freelance work barely covered his phone bill and diapers. He was trapped, and every day he stayed made the trap tighter. A soft knock on the door made him look up. Elena slipped inside, closing the door behind her with exaggerated care. She looked wrecked, her carefully constructed composure crumbling. "I'm sorry," she said. "About Liam's offer. I didn't know he was going to do that. It's not your fault. Isn't it? If we hadn't... Elena crossed to him, then stopped just out of reach. "I've been thinking about this all week, about what we should do. And? I think I should be the one to leave." Noah's head snapped up. "What?" "I have a friend in Portland. She's been asking me to visit for months. I could go for a while, give us both some space to figure this out." Elena's voice was steady, but her hands were shaking. "Liam would understand. I could say I needed a change of scenery, some time to work on a project. It would give you room to breathe, to focus on Micah without wanting to touch you every time I see you," Noah finished. "Yes." He wanted to tell her not to go, wanted to beg her to stay, to keep pretending they could navigate this without consequences. But that was selfish, and Noah was tired of being selfish. "How long?" "I don't know. A few weeks? Long enough for this," she gestured between them, "to fade." "You think it will? Fade?" Elena's laugh was hollow. "I have to believe it will. Otherwise, I don't know how to keep living in the same world as you." She turned to leave, and Noah should have let her go. Should have let this be the end of it. Should have accepted the mercy of distance. But he was on his feet before he could think better of it, crossing the space between them in 2 strides. "Elena," he said, and she turned just as he reached her. They collided like they'd been pulled together by forces neither could control. Elena's back hit the door, and Noah kissed her like he was drowning, like she was air and water and everything he needed to survive. She kissed him back with the same desperation, her fingers tangled in his hair, and Noah forgot about Liam down the hall, forgot about Micah sleeping 3 feet away, forgot about everything except the way Elena felt pressed against him. "We can't," she gasped against his mouth. "Not here. Not with... I know." But Noah didn't stop kissing her, couldn't make himself let go. "Tell me to stop." "I can't." They moved together, frantic and silent, trying to compress all the wanting into stolen minutes. Elena's hands were under his shirt, her touch electric on his skin. Noah's fingers found the zipper of her dress, and she arched into him with a sound that he had to swallow with another kiss to keep quiet. "Your room," Elena whispered. "Lock the door." Noah pulled back just far enough to check on Micah, who was still deeply asleep, then turned the lock with shaking hands. They fell onto the bed together, and Noah had just enough clarity to think this was insane. They were going to get caught, but then Elena was pulling him closer, and thinking became impossible. Afterward, they lay tangled together in the narrow twin bed, both breathing hard, the reality of what they'd just done settling over them like cold water. Micah stirred in his crib, and Noah's heart stopped, but the kid just rolled over and settled back into sleep. "I'm still leaving," Elena said quietly. "This doesn't change that." "I know. But not yet. I can't just disappear without making arrangements. Next week, maybe." "Okay." Noah pulled her closer, knowing she'd have to leave soon, sneak back to her own room before Liam woke up. "Can I ask you something?" "Anything." "Do you regret this? Any of it?" Elena was quiet for so long Noah thought she wouldn't answer. Then she shifted, propping herself up to look at him in the dim light from the street lamp outside. "No, I should, but I don't. Does that make me a terrible person? If it does, then we're terrible together." She smiled, sad and beautiful. "That's what scares me. How much I don't regret you." They stayed like that until the sky started to lighten, until Elena had to slip away before the house woke up. Noah watched her go, her dress wrinkled, her hair a mess, and felt something in his chest crack wide open. He was in love with her. The realization hit him like a freight train as she closed the door behind her. Somewhere between the first kiss and now, somewhere in the stolen hours and whispered conversations, he'd fallen completely and irrevocably in love with Liam's mother, and there was absolutely nothing he could do about it. The next morning arrived too soon. Noah dragged himself out of bed feeling like he'd been hit by a truck, every muscle aching with exhaustion. Micah was in a mood, refusing breakfast and throwing his sippy cup across the room with impressive force. Noah didn't have the energy to discipline him properly, just cleaned up the mess and tried again with different food. Liam was at the kitchen table when Noah made it downstairs, looking annoyingly well-rested. "Morning! I'm making pancakes. You want some?" "Sure. Thanks." Noah strapped Micah into the high chair and handed him some cut-up banana to destroy. "So I've been thinking about last night," Liam said, flipping a pancake with practiced ease. "About you staying. I know I kind of ambushed you with it, but I really meant what I said. I want you here." Noah's stomach turned. "Liam, just hear me out. I know you're worried about imposing or whatever, but you're not. You're helping Mom by giving her someone to talk to during the day, and honestly, you're helping me too. Coming home to a full house feels good, like we're actually family instead of just two people sharing a space." Liam slid pancakes onto a plate and brought them over. "Plus, Micah's the best. I'm getting all the fun of having a kid around without any of the actual responsibility." "That's really generous, but I can't keep taking advantage of your hospitality." "You're not. I'm offering. There's a difference." Liam sat down, his expression earnest. "Look, I know things have been rough for you. Let me help. That's what friends do." Elena appeared in the doorway, and Noah's breath caught. She was in yoga pants and an oversized sweater, her hair pulled back, no makeup. She looked exhausted and beautiful, and Noah had to look away before Liam noticed him staring. "Morning," she said, her voice carefully neutral. "Did I hear something about pancakes?" "I made extra. Sit." Liam jumped up to get her a plate. "I was just telling Noah he should stay with us long term. You don't mind, do you, Mom?" Elena's eyes met Noah's across the kitchen, and for a second he saw panic flash there before she shuddered it. "Of course not. Whatever you think is best." "See? It's settled." Liam beamed like he'd solved all their problems. "We can work out the details later, but consider this your home for as long as you need it." Noah felt the walls closing in. He should tell Liam the truth right now, should confess everything and deal with the fallout. But the words stuck in his throat, choked by cowardice and the desperate hope that maybe, somehow, they could navigate this without destroying everything. "Thank you," Noah managed. "I don't know what to say." "Don't say anything. Just stay." Elena excused herself after breakfast, claiming she had work to catch up on. Noah watched her leave, feeling the loss of her presence like a physical ache. Liam settled in to work on his laptop, completely content, while Noah played with Micah and tried to figure out how his life had become this complicated. His phone buzzed around noon. "Elena, we need to talk. Can you come to my room after Micah's nap?" Noah, "Is that a good idea?" Elena, "Probably not, but we're out of good ideas." Micah went down for his nap at 1, fighting it like always, but eventually succumbing to exhaustion. Noah waited 5 minutes to make sure he was really asleep, then slipped down the hall to Elena's room. She let him in immediately, closing the door behind him with a soft click. "I can't leave now," she said without preamble. "Not after Liam basically begged me to let you stay. If I suddenly announce I'm going to Portland, he'll know something's wrong." "So we're trapped." "It appears so." Elena sank onto the edge of her bed, her head in her hands. "I don't know what to do, Noah. Every option feels like it's going to hurt someone." Noah sat beside her, careful to leave space between them. "What if we just stopped? Cold turkey. No more sneaking around. No more—" "Do you really think we can do that?" Elena looked at him, her expression raw. "I've tried. All week I've tried to stop thinking about you, stop wanting you, and I can't. Every time I see you with Micah, every time you smile at something Liam says, every time I hear you laugh—" She broke off, shaking her head. "I'm in too deep, and I don't know how to climb back out." "Neither do I." They sat in silence, the weight of their impossible situation crushing down on them. Outside, Noah could hear Liam on a work call, his voice carrying up the stairs. The sounds of normal life continuing while they sat in the wreckage of what they'd created. "Maybe we need to tell him," Noah said quietly. Elena's head snapped up. "What?" "Tell Liam. Not everything, but I don't know, something, because this lying is killing me." "And you think the truth will be better?" Noah, if Liam finds out what we've been doing, it won't just hurt him, it'll destroy our relationship with him. You'll lose your best friend. I'll lose my son's trust. Elena's voice cracked. I can't risk that. I won't. Then what do we do? We endure it. We stay apart as much as possible. We get through each day until this feeling fades. And if it doesn't fade? Elena didn't answer because they both knew she didn't have one. Noah left her room feeling worse than when he'd entered. The rest of the day passed in a haze. Liam made dinner, chattering about his new project, his excitement infectious if you weren't drowning in guilt. Elena smiled and nodded in the right places, but Noah could see the strain around her eyes. He wondered if Liam noticed, if their careful pretense was as transparent as it felt. That night, Noah lay awake listening to the house settle, thinking about everything that had led him here. Sophie leaving had felt like the end of the world, but maybe it had just been the beginning of a different kind of disaster. One where he destroyed the people trying to help him simply by existing in their space. His phone lit up on the nightstand. Elena. I can't sleep. Noah stared at the message, his thumb hovering over the keyboard. He should ignore it. Should let the conversation die and maintain whatever distance they'd managed to create. But his fingers were typing before his brain could stop them. Noah. Me neither. Elena. This is torture. Noah. I know. Elena. I keep thinking about last night. About your hands on me. About the way you said my name. Noah's breath caught. He glanced at Micah, still sleeping peacefully, then back at his phone. Noah. Stop. Elena. I can't. Tell me you're not thinking about it too. Noah closed his eyes, but that just made it worse. He could see Elena perfectly in his mind, could remember exactly how she'd looked underneath him, the sounds she'd made, the way her body had moved with his. Noah. You know I am. Elena. Come to my room. Noah. We can't. Elena. Please, he should say no. Should turn off his phone and force himself to sleep. Should do literally anything except what every cell in his body was screaming at him to do. But he was already moving, already checking that Micah was deeply asleep, already opening his door as quietly as possible. Elena was waiting for him in the hallway, and they didn't even make it to her room. She pulled him into the bathroom instead, locking the door behind them, and then they were kissing against the sink, desperate and reckless. Noah lifted her onto the counter and Elena's legs wrapped around his waist, pulling him closer. This is insane, Noah gasped against her neck. Liam's right down the hall. I know. But Elena's hands were already working at his belt, and Noah couldn't find it in himself to stop her. They moved together in frantic silence, both hyper-aware of every sound, every creak of the house. It was quick and desperate, and everything they shouldn't be doing, but Noah couldn't regret it. Not when Elena was looking at him like he was oxygen, not when she said his name like a prayer, not when everything else in his life felt like chaos. But this felt inevitable. Afterward, Elena rested her forehead against his, both of them breathing hard. We have to stop. I know. I mean it this time. No more late-night texts. No more sneaking around. We have to end this before we get caught. Okay. But neither of them moved, and Noah knew with terrible certainty that they were lying to themselves. They'd said this before, made promises they couldn't keep, drawn lines they immediately crossed. What made either of them think this time would be different? Elena slipped out of the bathroom first, leaving Noah to wait a full 5 minutes before following. His hands were still shaking when he made it back to the guest room, adrenaline and guilt making his heart race. He checked on Micah for the third time, as if his son's peaceful sleep could somehow absolve him of what he'd just done. Again, for what felt like the 100th time, he'd promised Elena they would stop, and for what felt like the 100th time, the promise had lasted less than 24 hours. He climbed into bed, but sleep was impossible. Every sound in the house made him freeze. Was that Liam's door opening? Footsteps in the hall? But the house remained quiet, and eventually exhaustion pulled him under into fitful dreams where Liam's face twisted with betrayal while Elena disappeared into smoke he couldn't hold. Morning came too early, gray light filtering through the curtains. Micah was already awake, standing in his crib and babbling to himself, and Noah dragged himself out of bed feeling like he'd been scraped hollow. He went through the motions of the morning routine on autopilot, diaper change, getting Micah dressed, finding clean clothes for himself that didn't smell like desperation. Downstairs, Liam was already gone, a note on the counter saying he'd had an early meeting. Elena's door was still closed. Noah made coffee and fed Micah, grateful for the reprieve of being alone. But around 9, Elena emerged, and the sight of her made Noah's chest tighten. She looked as wrecked as he felt, dark circles under her eyes, her movements careful like she was trying not to shatter. "Morning," she said, not quite meeting his eyes. "Morning." They moved around each other with exaggerated care, two people trying desperately not to touch. Elena made tea. Noah cleaned up Micah's breakfast mess. The silence stretched between them, heavy with everything they couldn't say. "I have a consultation this afternoon," Elena finally said, "for a commercial property downtown. I'll be gone most of the day." "Okay." Liam mentioned he might work late tonight, something about a deadline. Noah nodded, understanding the subtext. They'd be alone in the house for hours. The thought should have terrified him, should have sent him running for any excuse to be elsewhere. Instead, anticipation curled in his gut, dark and undeniable. "Noah," Elena said, and the way she said his name made him look up. "We really do have to stop. You know that, right? Last night was... We can't keep doing that." "I know." "Do you? Because every time we say it's the last time, it isn't." Elena set down her tea, her hands trembling slightly. "I don't recognize myself anymore. I've never been this person, the one who sneaks around and lies, but with you, I can't seem to help it." "You think I like this? You think I want to be the guy who betrays his best friend?" Noah's voice came out harsher than he intended. "I hate myself every single day, but I can't. When I'm near you, nothing else matters. Not Liam, not common sense, not even Micah sometimes. And that terrifies me." Elena's eyes widened. "Don't say that. Micah has to matter. He has to come first." "He does. He always does. But you..." Noah broke off, running his hands through his hair in frustration. "I don't know how to make this make sense. How to explain that I can love my son more than anything and still want you so badly I can't breathe." "We're not talking about want anymore, are we?" Elena's voice was barely a whisper. Noah met her gaze, and the truth sat between them like a living thing. He was in love with her. Had been for weeks, maybe since that first night. And from the look in her eyes, the careful way she was holding herself together, she felt it too. "No," he said. "We're not." Elena turned away, gripping the edge of the counter. "That makes it worse. So much worse." "I know. If it was just physical, we could stop. We could chalk it up to loneliness and proximity and move on. But this..." She gestured helplessly between them. "How do we move on from this?" Noah had no answer. Micah chose that moment to start fussing, demanding attention, and Noah had never been more grateful for his son's timing. He scooped the kid up, using him as a shield against the conversation spiraling out of control. "I should go," Elena said, already backing toward the stairs. "I need to get ready for my consultation." She disappeared, and Noah stood alone in the kitchen with Micah, feeling like the ground kept shifting beneath his feet. He spent the rest of the morning in a daze, playing with his son and trying not to count down the hours until Elena left, until they'd be alone in the house again. The wanting was bad enough when it was just desire, but this new knowledge that what he felt was deeper, more permanent, made everything infinitely more complicated. Elena left around noon, barely saying goodbye, her eyes carefully avoiding his. The house felt emptier without her, which was ridiculous considering she'd only been there for 3 hours. Noah tried to work, responding to client emails and making revisions to designs, but his mind kept drifting. He kept checking his phone, half expecting a text from her, even though she'd said she'd be in meetings all afternoon. Liam called around 3. "Hey, just confirming I won't be home until late. This code is fighting me and I need to push through. You good with Micah?" "Yeah, we're fine. Take your time." "Thanks, man. You're the best. Tell Mom I'll grab dinner on the way home so she doesn't have to cook." Guilt twisted Noah's stomach. "Will do." He hung up and immediately hated himself more. Liam was thinking about his mother's convenience while Noah was thinking about all the ways he wanted to touch her the second she walked through the door. The contrast was nauseating. Micah went down for his afternoon nap without a fight, worn out from a morning of energetic play. Noah stood over the crib watching him sleep, this tiny person who depended on him to make good choices, to be someone worth looking up to. What kind of example was he setting? What would he tell Micah years from now when his son asked about this time in their lives? The truth. That Noah had been so selfish, so weak, that he'd risked everything for someone he couldn't have, wasn't something he could ever admit. His phone buzzed. Elena. Consultation finished early, heading home. Noah's pulse jumped. He typed and deleted 3 different responses before settling on, "Okay, Elena, we should talk, really talk. Not just say we're going to stop and then not stop." Noah. I agree. Elena. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Noah spent those 20 minutes trying to prepare himself for a conversation he didn't want to have. They needed to set real boundaries. Maybe he needed to move out after all, find some way to make it work financially, even if it meant taking on more freelance work than he could reasonably handle. Distance was the only solution, because clearly proximity was destroying them both. He heard Elena's car in the driveway, the front door opening. Her footsteps in the entryway were hesitant, and when she appeared in the living room doorway, she looked as nervous as he felt. "Where's Micah?" she asked. "Napping. Should be out for at least another hour." Elena nodded, then crossed to the couch and sat down, her posture rigid. Noah took the armchair, maintaining distance. They sat in silence for a long moment, neither sure how to start. "I've been thinking," Elena finally said, "about what you said this morning, about this being more than want." "Elena, let me finish, please." She took a breath, steadying herself. "I need to be honest with you, completely honest, because I think that's the only way we get through this." Noah's heart was hammering. "Okay. I haven't felt this way about anyone since my husband left. Maybe not even with him, honestly. What we had was comfortable, familiar, but it wasn't—" She paused, searching for words. "It wasn't this consuming, and I've spent the last few weeks trying to convince myself it's just chemistry, just 2 lonely people finding comfort in each other. But it's not. It's so much more than that, and it scares me." "It scares me too," Noah admitted, "because I don't know how to have these feelings and still do right by Micah and Liam. They should be my priority. They are my priority. But I'm there anyway," Elena finished, "taking up space you didn't plan to give me." "Yeah." Elena leaned forward, her elbows on her knees. "So what do we do? Because I've run through every scenario in my head, and they all end badly. Either we keep sneaking around and eventually Liam finds out and hates us both. Or you move out and we try to pretend this never happened, but we're both miserable. Or we tell Liam the truth and destroy our relationships with him. There's no good option. What if we just—" Noah hesitated, the idea forming even as he spoke. "What if we're honest with him? Not about everything we've done, but about how we feel." "Noah, no, we can't." "Why not? He's going to find out eventually. You said it yourself, we're not good at hiding this. And maybe if we tell him on our terms, if we explain that nothing's happened, but things have happened," Elena interrupted, her voice sharp. "We've been sneaking around for weeks. We've lied to him every single day. You think that's going to be better if we confess now?" "I think it's better than him walking in on us one day and finding out the worst way possible." Noah stood, pacing. "I can't keep doing this, Elena. The lying is eating me alive. I see him every day and he's so happy to have me here, so grateful that you have company, and all I can think is that I'm the worst friend in the world." Elena's face crumpled. "You think I don't feel the same way? He's my son. I carried him, raised him, sacrificed everything to give him a good life. And now I'm risking our relationship for—" She broke off, tears spilling over. "For someone I can't even have." Noah crossed to her without thinking, kneeling in front of the couch and taking her hands. "Then let's end it. Right now. No more sneaking around, no more stolen moments. We go back to how things were before." "But can we?" Elena looked at him, her eyes searching his face. "Can you really look me in the eye every day and feel nothing?" Noah wanted to lie, wanted to tell her yes. Of course he could. But the words wouldn't come, because the truth was staring at both of them, undeniable and terrible. They'd crossed too many lines to go back. Whatever innocence their relationship had once had was gone, burned away by every kiss, every whispered confession, Every moment they'd chosen each other over doing the right thing. No, he admitted. I can't. Elena pulled her hands from his, standing abruptly and putting distance between them. Then you have to move out. It's the only way. I don't have anywhere to go. I've been looking, but everything requires deposits I don't have, proof of steady income I can't provide. And Liam just offered. I know what Liam offered, but you have to find a way, Noah, because if you stay, this doesn't end well for anyone. What if I don't want it to end? The words escaped before Noah could stop them, raw and honest. What if I think what we have is worth fighting for? Elena stared at him, something breaking in her expression. Don't. Please don't make this harder than it already is. Why not? Why do we have to be the ones who sacrifice? Maybe Liam would understand. Maybe he wouldn't. Trust me, Noah. I know my son. This would devastate him. Elena's voice was thick with tears. And even if by some miracle he accepted it, what then? We what date? Play happy family? You're 23 years old. You should be out living your life, not tied down to a woman nearly 30 years older with a grown son and a complicated past. I don't care about any of that. You should. You will, eventually. And when you do, when you wake up one day and realize you've wasted your youth on someone who can't give you what you need, it'll be too late. Elena wiped her eyes, trying to compose herself. I care about you too much to let that happen. That's not your choice to make. Maybe not. But it's the choice I'm making anyway. They stood facing each other across the living room, the space between them feeling insurmountable. Noah wanted to cross to her, wanted to prove with his body what his words couldn't seem to convey. But Elena's posture was closed off, defensive, and he knew that if he touched her now, they'd fall into the same pattern they'd been repeating for weeks. I'm going to start looking for apartments seriously, Noah said finally, his voice hollow. Put out some feelers, see if I can find something that'll work with my budget. It might take a few weeks, but I'll figure it out. Thank you. Elena's relief was palpable. And in the meantime, we stay away from each other. No late-night texts, no private conversations. We're polite and distant, and we get through this. Okay. But neither of them moved. They stood there in the fading afternoon light, and Noah memorized the way Elena looked. Heartbroken and beautiful and impossibly far away even though she was right there. He wanted to tell her he loved her, wanted to hear her say it back, but what was the point? The words would only make leaving harder. Micah's cry from upstairs shattered the moment. Noah turned away first, heading for the stairs, grateful for the excuse to escape. Behind him, he heard Elena sink back onto the couch, the sound of her breathing uneven. He took the stairs 2 at a time, putting as much distance between them as the house would allow. Micah was standing in his crib, face red from crying, and Noah lifted him out, holding him close. I've got you, buddy. Dad's here. The kid buried his face in Noah's neck, and Noah felt something in his chest crack. This was what mattered, not his own wants, not the way Elena made him feel alive for the first time in years. Just this small person who needed him to be better, stronger, more selfless than he actually was. He heard the front door open downstairs, Liam's voice calling out that he was home early. The deadline not as bad as he'd thought. Noah closed his eyes, steadying himself, then carried Micah downstairs to face his friend. Liam was in the kitchen with Elena, and the scene looked almost normal, mother and son chatting about his day, the easy intimacy of family. Elena had composed herself, her tears gone, her smile in place. She looked at Noah with nothing more than polite interest, like they hadn't just torn each other apart upstairs. Hey, Micah's up! Liam reached for the toddler and Micah went to him willingly, always happy for attention. How was your day, little man? Did you give your dad a hard time? He was good, Noah said, his voice steady. We went to the park this morning, wore him out. Nice. I was thinking we could order pizza for dinner if that works for everyone. I'm too beat to cook. A pizza sounds great, Elena said. They fell into the routine of evening. Liam ordering food, Elena setting the table, Noah keeping Micah entertained. To any outside observer, they looked like a functional family unit. No one would guess that beneath the surface, everything was fracturing. Dinner was easier than Noah expected, mostly because Liam dominated the conversation with stories about work. Noah let him talk, contributing only when directly asked, while Elena nodded and asked questions with the perfect amount of maternal interest. They were both performing, Noah realized, both playing their parts in the fiction they'd constructed. After dinner, Liam offered to give Micah a bath, insisting Noah take a break. Noah retreated to the guest room, ostensibly to work but really just to escape the suffocating normalcy of it all. He pulled up apartment listings on his laptop, scrolling through options that were either too expensive or too far from the city where his few clients were located. The numbers didn't work no matter how he tried to make them fit. A knock on the door made him look up. Elena stood in the doorway, her expression carefully neutral. "Liam's putting Micah to bed. He wanted me to tell you." "Okay, thanks." She should have left then, should have delivered her message and retreated, but she lingered in the doorway, her fingers gripping the frame. "Did you mean what you said? About looking for apartments?" "Yeah, I've been searching all evening. Nothing's jumping out, but I'll keep trying." "Noah!" Elena's voice cracked, and she cleared her throat. "I'm sorry. For all of this. For not being stronger. You don't have to apologize. We both made choices. Bad choices. Maybe, but I don't regret them. Not really." Noah met her eyes. "Do you?" Elena was quiet for a long moment. Then she shook her head slowly. "No, and that's what makes it so hard." Footsteps on the stairs made them both freeze. Elena stepped back into the hallway just as Liam appeared, Micah in his arms, the kid already drowsy from his bath. "Someone's ready for bed," Liam said, handing Micah over to Noah. "I think I wore him out with all the splashing. Thanks for doing that." Noah took his son, breathing in the clean scent of baby shampoo. "Say goodnight to Liam and Elena." Micah waved sleepily, and both Liam and Elena said goodnight with the kind of warmth that made Noah's chest ache. This was what Micah needed: stability, family, people who cared about him. Not a father who was about to uproot their lives again because he couldn't keep his hands off his best friend's mother. Noah got Micah settled in the crib, then changed into sleep clothes even though he knew rest wouldn't come easy. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling, listening to the house settle. Liam's TV was on, some late-night show. Elena's light was still on, visible as a strip of yellow under her door when Noah got up to use the bathroom. He should have gone straight back to his room, should have ignored the pull toward her door, the desperate need to see her one more time. But his feet carried him down the hall, and before he could second-guess himself, he was knocking softly. Elena opened the door in her pajamas, her hair down, reading glasses perched on her nose. She looked young and vulnerable, and Noah's resolve crumbled. "We said we weren't going to do this," she whispered. "I know, I just needed to see you." "Noah, I'm not asking for anything, He ran his hand through his hair, frustrated with himself. "I needed to see you, that's all." Elena looked at him for a long moment, then stepped back, letting him in. She closed the door behind him, and they stood in her room with 2 feet of space between them that felt like miles. "This has to be the last time," Elena said. "We can't keep having these moments. It's not fair to either of us." "I know." "Do you? Because you keep showing up at my door and I keep letting you in, and we're not getting any better at this." "Maybe we're not supposed to get better at it." Noah took a step closer. "Maybe we're supposed to stop fighting it." "That's not an option, and you know it." "Then tell me to leave. Tell me you don't want me here and I'll go." Elena's jaw tightened. "That's not fair." "None of this is fair. But I'm tired of pretending I don't feel what I feel. I'm in love with you, Elena, and I think you love me too, even if you won't say it." The words hung in the air between them, too big for the room, too honest for the carefully constructed lies they'd been living. Elena's eyes filled with tears, and she looked away, her hands trembling. "Don't," she whispered. "Please don't make me say it." "Why not?" "Because if I say it, it becomes real. And if it's real, I don't know how to walk away from it." Noah closed the distance between them, his hands finding her face, tilting it up so she had to meet his eyes. "Then don't walk away. Stay. Choose this. Choose us." "And what about Liam?" "We tell him the truth. We deal with the consequences, but we do it together." Elena's tears spilled over, and Noah wiped them away with his thumbs. She leaned into his touch, and for a moment Noah thought she might actually say yes, might actually choose the impossible thing they both wanted. Then she pulled back, shaking her head. "I can't. I'm sorry, Noah, but I can't do that to my son, no matter how much I—" She broke off, wrapping her arms around herself. You need to go, please. Elena, go. Before I change my mind. Noah wanted to argue, wanted to push until she admitted what they both knew was true. But the look on her face, devastated and determined, told him it would be pointless. She'd made her choice, and it wasn't him. He left her room and made it back to his own before the tears came. He cried silently into his pillow, trying not to wake Micah, trying not to fall apart completely. He'd known from the beginning this wouldn't end well. Had known that loving Elena Carter was the worst possible thing he could do. But knowing and accepting were two different things, and Noah wasn't ready to accept that it was over. The week that followed was a special kind of hell. Noah and Elena moved through the house like ghosts, carefully avoiding each other, speaking only when absolutely necessary. Liam noticed nothing, too consumed with his project deadline to see the careful choreography happening around him. Noah threw himself into work, and Micah, using both as shields against the ache that had taken up permanent residence in his chest. He'd found an apartment, barely. A studio in a questionable neighborhood, small enough that Micah's crib would take up a quarter of the space, but it was something. The landlord had agreed to waive the deposit if Noah paid 2 months up front, which meant draining what little savings he had left. He'd signed the lease that morning, sitting in a dingy office that smelled like cigarettes and desperation and felt nothing but numb acceptance. He hadn't told Liam yet, hadn't figured out how to explain why he was leaving when his best friend had just begged him to stay. The conversation sat in Noah's future like a storm cloud, inevitable and destructive. It was Thursday evening when everything finally broke. Noah was in the kitchen making dinner, something simple, pasta with jarred sauce because his brain couldn't handle anything more complicated. Micah was in his high chair, throwing Cheerios on the floor with dedicated enthusiasm. Elena had been in her office all day, avoiding the common spaces, and Noah had been grateful for it. Then Liam came home early, bursting through the front door with the kind of energy that meant either something amazing or terrible had happened. "Family meeting," he announced, dropping his bag in the entryway. "Living room, now." Noah's stomach dropped. He lifted Micah out of the high chair and followed Liam, his heart pounding. Elena emerged from her office looking as confused as Noah felt, and they all settled in the living room, Liam pacing, Noah on the couch with Micah on his lap, Elena in the armchair with her hands folded tightly in her lap. "What's going on?" Elena asked, her voice carefully controlled. Liam stopped pacing and turned to face them, his expression unreadable. "I need to tell you both something, and I need you to let me finish before you react." Noah's blood turned to ice. He knew. Somehow Liam knew, and Noah's entire world was about to come crashing down. He looked at Elena and saw the same terror reflected in her eyes. "Okay," Elena said slowly. "We're listening." Liam took a breath, then sat on the coffee table across from them. "I got offered a position in Seattle, lead developer for a startup that's doing incredible things with AI integration. The salary is almost double what I'm making now, and it's exactly the kind of work I've been wanting to do." Relief flooded through Noah so fast he felt dizzy. Not about them. This wasn't about them. "That's amazing, Liam. Congratulations." "There's more." Liam's gaze moved between them. "They want me to start in 2 weeks, which means I'd have to move pretty much immediately." Elena's face went pale. 2 weeks? "I know it's fast, but Mom, this is the opportunity I've been waiting for. I can't turn it down." "Of course you can't. I would never ask you to." Elena's voice was steady, but Noah could see the way her hands were shaking. "When would you leave?" "Next Friday. They're helping with relocation costs, finding me an apartment, the whole thing." Liam looked at Noah. "Which brings me to you, man. I know I just convinced you to stay, and now I'm bailing. I'm sorry. But the thing is, the house is paid off. It's Mom's. And there's plenty of room for you and Micah to stay as long as you need." Noah's throat closed. This was worse than Liam knowing. This was Liam leaving them alone in the house together, with no buffer, no reason to maintain distance. "Liam, I can't. Please. I'm already feeling guilty enough about leaving Mom by herself. If I know you're here, that she has company, it'll make it easier." Liam's expression was pleading. "Unless you found something else?" Noah thought about the studio apartment he'd just leased, the money he'd already sunk into it. He could mention it now, could explain that he'd made other arrangements. But the words stuck in his throat because one look at Elena's face told him everything he needed to know. She was terrified of being left alone with him, and she should be. They'd barely made it through a week of careful avoidance. How were they supposed to survive months? I found a place, Noah said quietly. A studio. I was going to tell you this week. Liam's face fell. Oh, well, that's good. You're getting on your feet. That's what matters. When do you move in? Elena asked, and her voice was too neutral, too carefully controlled. I signed the lease this morning. I can move in any time. So soon. Liam ran his hand through his hair. Man, I really did just blow up everyone's plans, didn't I? You're following your dreams, Elena said, standing and crossing to her son. That's what you're supposed to do. I'm so proud of you. Liam hugged her, and Noah watched them, feeling like an intruder. This was a family moment, and he didn't belong here. He stood, shifting Micah to his other hip. I should finish making dinner. Noah, wait. Liam pulled back from Elena. I know this is a lot, but I want you to know you'll always have a place here, even with me in Seattle. This is your home too. The words were meant to comfort, but they landed like blows. Noah managed a smile. Thanks, man. That means a lot. He escaped to the kitchen, his hands shaking as he drained the pasta. Behind him, he could hear Liam and Elena talking in low voices, making plans for his move, discussing logistics. Normal family things that Noah wasn't part of and never would be. Dinner was subdued. Liam tried to keep the conversation light, talking about Seattle and what he'd heard about the city, but the weight of impending change hung over all of them. Noah barely tasted his food, too aware of Elena across the table, the way she wasn't looking at him, the careful way she was holding herself together. After dinner, Liam disappeared to his room to start making lists and arrangements. Elena began clearing the table, and Noah helped in silence, their hands occasionally brushing as they passed dishes. Each accidental touch felt electric, dangerous. You don't have to move out, Elena said quietly, her back to him as she rinsed plates. Not because of me. Yes, I do. The studio? Can you afford it? Really? I'll make it work. Noah set down the cups he was holding. It's better this way. Clean break. Elena turned off the water, her shoulders tight. Is that what this is? A clean break? What else can it be? She turned to face him, and the look in her eyes nearly broke him. I don't know. But I hate that Liam's leaving means we can't even... She stopped, shaking her head. Never mind. You're right. Clean break is better. Elena, don't. Please. She dried her hands on a towel, not meeting his eyes. I'm going to go help Liam start packing. You should get Micah ready for bed. She left him standing in the kitchen, and Noah felt the loss of her like a physical wound. He went through the motions of Micah's bedtime routine mechanically, reading the same book 3 times without absorbing a single word. By the time his son was asleep, Noah felt hollowed out, scraped raw. He should have gone to bed, should have hidden in his room and avoided any more painful conversations. Instead, he found himself standing outside Elena's door at midnight, his hand raised to knock, knowing it was a terrible idea and unable to stop himself. Elena answered on the first knock, like she'd been waiting for him. She was in pajamas, her hair down, her eyes red like she'd been crying. We can't keep doing this, she said, but she stepped back to let him in anyway. Noah closed the door behind him, and they stood facing each other in the dim light from her bedside lamp. Liam's leaving. I know. We could... Noah stopped, the enormity of what he was about to suggest hitting him. We could try. Actually try. Once he's gone, we wouldn't have to hide anymore. Elena's expression crumpled. Noah, don't. Why not? He'll be in Seattle. We'll be here. We could see where this goes without destroying my relationship with my son? Is that what you were going to say? Elena's voice was sharp with pain. Because that's what would happen. Maybe not right away, but eventually. He'd find out, and he'd feel betrayed, and I'd lose him. You don't know that. Yes, I do. I know my son, and I know that what we've done, what we've been doing, would devastate him. Not because he doesn't want me to be happy, but because it's you, his best friend, the person he trusts most in the world besides me. Elena wrapped her arms around herself. I can't risk that. Not even for this. So what? We just pretend it never happened? Go back to being strangers? We were never strangers, and we can't go back, but we can move forward separately. Noah felt something break inside him. I don't want to move forward without you. Noah! Elena's voice cracked, and suddenly she was crying, tears streaming down her face. Do you think this is easy for me? Do you think I want to watch you leave, knowing I'm never going to… She broke off, pressing her hands to her face. I'm in love with you. There, I said it. I'm in love with you, and it's the worst possible thing I could feel, and I hate it. Noah crossed to her, pulling her hands away from her face. Then why are we fighting this? If we both feel the same way… Because love isn't enough. Elena's words came out almost angry. Love doesn't fix the 29-year age difference. It doesn't change the fact that you're Liam's best friend, that you have a whole life ahead of you. You should be with someone your own age, someone who can give you more children if you want them, someone who… Noah kissed her, cutting off her protests, pouring everything he felt into it, love and frustration and desperation and goodbye. Elena kissed him back just as fiercely, her hands fisting in his shirt, and for a moment they were back to that first night, when everything had been new and forbidden and impossible to resist. But this time, Noah pulled back first. I don't want someone my own age. I don't want more children. I want you, just you. You say that now. I'll say it tomorrow. I'll say it a year from now. I'll say it for as long as you'll let me. Elena touched his face, her expression so sad it hurt to look at. And what happens when Liam comes home for Christmas? When he FaceTimes and wants to talk to both of us? Do we lie to him every day for the rest of our lives? The question hung between them, unanswerable, because Elena was right. They couldn't build a relationship on lies and omission, couldn't ask Liam to accept something they'd hidden from him. But the truth would destroy everything: Noah's friendship with Liam, Elena's relationship with her son, the fragile peace they'd all found. We tell him, Noah said, the decision crystallizing even as he spoke. Not now, but eventually. When the time is right, we sit him down and we tell him the truth. And if he hates us for it, then we deal with it, together. Noah took her hands, holding them tight. I'm not saying it'll be easy. I'm not saying it won't hurt. But Elena, I can't walk away from you. I've tried, and I can't do it. Elena searched his face, and Noah could see her wavering, could see the hope and fear warring in her expression. What about Micah? He has to be your priority. He is. He always will be. But that doesn't mean I can't also choose you. Noah, stop. Please stop giving me reasons why this won't work and just tell me what you want. Not what's logical, not what's safe. What do you actually want? Elena closed her eyes, tears still streaming down her face. When she opened them again, there was something different there. Surrender, maybe, or acceptance. You. I want you, even though it's selfish and complicated and probably a mistake. I want you. Noah pulled her close, holding her like she was the only solid thing in a world that wouldn't stop spinning. Then that's what we do. We figure it out as we go. They stayed like that for a long time, just holding each other, the weight of their decision settling over them. Eventually, Elena pulled back, wiping her eyes. I'm scared, she admitted. Me too. What if we're making a huge mistake? Then we make it together. Noah touched her face, thumbs brushing away her tears. No more hiding, no more sneaking around. When Liam leaves, we try this for real. And when he comes home for a visit, we tell him. He's going to be so hurt. I know. But he'll be more hurt if he finds out we lied for months or years. Noah took a breath. We'll tell him that this started after he left, that we didn't plan it, but we're not going to apologize for it either. Elena nodded slowly. Okay, but Noah, if at any point you change your mind, if you wake up and realize this isn't what you want, I won't. But if you do, promise me you'll tell me. Promise me you won't stay out of guilt or obligation. I promise. But only if you promise me the same thing. Deal. They sealed it with a kiss, slower this time, tender instead of desperate. When they finally pulled apart, Noah felt lighter than he had in weeks. The path ahead was still complicated, still fraught with potential disaster, but at least they were walking it together instead of tearing themselves apart, trying to stay away from each other. You should go, Elena said quietly. before Liam wakes up and finds you here. I know, but Noah didn't move, wasn't ready to let go of her yet. One more week. One more week of pretending. Then we figure out what comes next. Noah kissed her forehead and forced himself to leave. Back in his room, he checked on Micah, then lay in bed staring at the ceiling. They'd made a choice, and there was no taking it back now. In a week, Liam would be gone, and Noah and Elena would have to figure out if what they felt for each other was strong enough to weather the storm that was coming. The week passed in a blur of packing and planning. Liam was a whirlwind of activity, sorting through years of accumulated possessions, boxing up his life to ship to Seattle. Noah helped when he could, all the while feeling like a traitor. He decided not to mention the studio apartment, had instead let his deposit become a sunk cost. The money stung, but Elena had quietly insisted on reimbursing him, and Noah had been too tired to argue. They maintained the careful distance around Liam, but Noah caught Elena's eyes across rooms, saw the question there. Are we really doing this? And every time he nodded slightly, hoping she could read the answer. Yes, we are. Friday came too fast. Liam's moving truck was loaded by noon, his car packed with essentials for the drive. He stood in the driveway saying goodbye to Elena, both of them crying, and Noah hung back with Micah, giving them space for their moment. Finally, Liam turned to Noah, pulling him into a fierce hug. Take care of my mom, okay? I know you've got your own stuff going on, but she's going to be lonely with me gone. Noah's throat was tight with guilt and grief. I will, I promise. And don't be a stranger. You have my number. Use it. Liam pulled back, grinning through his tears. I'm going to miss you, man. I'm going to miss you too. Liam kissed Micah's head, made Elena promise to visit soon, then climbed into his car. They stood in the driveway watching him drive away, waving until he turned the corner and disappeared. The silence that followed felt enormous. Elena was the first to move, turning to head back inside. Noah followed with Micah, and they stood in the entryway of the suddenly too quiet house. So, Elena said. So, Noah echoed. They looked at each other, and despite everything, the guilt, the fear, the uncertainty, Noah felt a smile tugging at his lips. Elena smiled back, tentative and real, and something in Noah's chest eased. I should put Micah down for his nap, Noah said, and I should probably work. I have a client meeting Monday I need to prepare for. Right, work, that's good. They were being ridiculous, dancing around each other like teenagers, but Noah couldn't seem to help it. Everything felt different now, charged with possibility instead of just forbidden desire. Noah? Elena said as he started up the stairs. Yeah? I'm glad you're here. Me too. The afternoon passed quietly. Noah worked on designs while Micah napped, hyper-aware of Elena in her office down the hall. When Micah woke up, Noah took him outside to the backyard, letting him toddle around the grass while Noah tried to process the enormity of what was happening. They were really doing this. He and Elena, together, in the house Liam had left them. It felt surreal, like any moment someone would appear and tell them this wasn't allowed, that they'd broken too many rules to deserve happiness. Dinner was awkward at first, just the two of them at the table with Micah in his high chair. But gradually they relaxed into conversation, and by the time they were cleaning up, Noah felt some of the tension ease. What happens now? He asked as Elena wiped down the counter. I don't know. We've never done this part before. The honest part. Do you want me to move my stuff out of the guest room? There's plenty of space. Not yet, Elena interrupted. Let's take this slow. Figure out what we are before we start changing living arrangements. Okay, slow. I can do slow. But when Micah was asleep and Noah found Elena in the living room, when she patted the couch beside her in invitation, slow went out the window. They came together like they'd been waiting for permission, kissing with the kind of freedom they'd never had before. No listening for Liam's footsteps, no fear of being caught. Just them, finally allowed to want each other openly. This is different, Elena breathed against his mouth. Better different? Terrifying different. Noah pulled back to look at her. Do you want to stop? No, but I think we should talk. Really talk about what this means. They separated, putting space between them on the couch. Noah's body protested the distance, but his mind knew Elena was right. They needed to figure out the logistics before they got lost in each other again. I want to be with you, Noah said. actually be with you, not just sneak around. But I need to know this is real for you too, that you're not just, I don't know, making the best of a complicated situation. It's real, Elena said quietly. More real than I've felt in years. But Noah, we need to be smart about this. Micah needs stability. We can't just play house and see what happens. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting we take our time. You keep the guest room for now, maintain some boundaries. We date properly. Get to know each other outside of desperation and guilt. Elena took his hand. And we figure out how and when to tell Liam, because that conversation is coming whether we're ready or not. When he comes home for Thanksgiving, Noah said, that gives us a few months to figure out what we are, to make sure this is something worth fighting for. And if he doesn't take it well, then we deal with it. But Elena, I'm not willing to give you up to make him comfortable. I'll apologize for the lying, for the sneaking around, but I won't apologize for loving you. Elena's eyes filled with tears. I love you too. I should have said it sooner, but I was scared. I know, me too. They sat together in the quiet house, holding hands, and for the first time since this all started, Noah felt like they might actually make it through. The road ahead was still complicated. They'd have to face Liam eventually, have to weather whatever storm that conversation brought. But they'd face it together, and that made all the difference. The weeks that followed settled into a rhythm. Noah did move his things gradually into Elena's room, though he kept the guest room set up for Micah. They navigated the strangeness of being a couple in a house that still felt like they were sneaking around, even though there was no one to hide from anymore. Liam called every few days, FaceTiming to tell them about Seattle, and both Noah and Elena became experts at looking natural on camera, at hiding the way Noah's hand would sometimes rest on Elena's shoulder, the way they'd started to orbit each other like gravity. Noah's freelance work picked up, several good clients leading to more referrals. He started contributing to household expenses despite Elena's protests, needing to feel like he was pulling his weight. They fell into routines, Elena making breakfast while Noah got Micah ready, both of them cleaning up dinner together while Micah played, evenings on the couch talking about everything and nothing. It felt domestic in ways Noah had never experienced. Sophie had always been so focused on what came next, on planning for a future that never materialized. But Elena was present, engaged with the life they were building in real time. She helped with Micah's bedtime, read him stories in her calm voice, and didn't flinch when he called her Lena instead of Elena. Does it bother you? Noah asked one night after they'd gotten Micah down. Being part of this makeshift family? Bother me? Noah, this is the happiest I've been in years. Elena curled into his side on the couch. Is it conventional? No, but nothing about us has been conventional from the start. True. Noah kissed the top of her head. Liam said he's coming home for Thanksgiving, 4 days. I know, he texted me about it this morning. So we tell him then. Elena tensed slightly. Are you sure? We could wait until Christmas, give ourselves more time. No, no more waiting. We tell him at Thanksgiving, and whatever happens, happens. The conversation they'd been avoiding all these weeks finally surfaced the night before Liam was due to arrive. Elena was pacing the bedroom, nervous energy radiating off her. What if he never forgives us? She asked for the 10th time. Then we'll find a way to live with it. But Elena, we can't keep lying to him. He deserves the truth. I know, he's my son. What if this ruins everything? Noah caught her mid-pace, pulling her close. He loves you. That doesn't just go away because you fell in love with someone he didn't expect. You make it sound so simple. It's not simple. But it is what it is. And I'd rather deal with Liam being angry than keep pretending we're not together. Liam arrived Wednesday afternoon, bursting through the door with his usual energy. He looked good, happy, settled, like Seattle was agreeing with him. He hugged Elena first, lifting her off the ground, then turned to Noah with a grin. Man, it's good to be home. Seattle's great, but I missed you guys. He scooped up Micah, who'd toddled over to investigate. And this little monster, you got so big. Dinner that first night was easier than Noah expected. Liam dominated conversation with stories about his new job, his apartment, the friends he was making. Noah and Elena fell into their careful rhythm of not quite touching, maintaining the facade for one more night. But Thursday morning, Thanksgiving Day, Noah woke up knowing they couldn't wait any longer. Elena was already awake beside him, staring at the ceiling. "Today," she said. "Today," Noah confirmed. They spent the morning cooking, the three of them working together to prepare the kind of elaborate meal Liam had requested. Noah kept catching Elena's eye, seeing his own nervousness reflected there. Liam noticed nothing, too happy to be home, too comfortable with the dynamic between the three of them to see what had shifted. Dinner was perfect. Turkey and all the traditional sides, pie for dessert. They ate and laughed and told stories, and Noah felt the weight of impending confession pressing down on him. Finally, as they were clearing plates, Elena caught his eye and nodded slightly. "Liam," she said, her voice steadier than Noah expected. "We need to talk to you about something." Liam looked up from loading the dishwasher, his expression curious. "Sounds serious. Everything okay?" "Yes and no." Elena dried her hands on a towel, then moved to stand beside Noah, close enough that the message was clear, even before the words came. "There's something we need to tell you. About Noah and me." Understanding dawned slowly on Liam's face. Noah watched it happen, confusion giving way to realization, giving way to something harder to read. Liam looked between them, then at the way Elena's hand had found Noah's. "How long?" Liam's voice was flat. "It started after you left," Noah said, the lie coming easily because it was kinder than the truth. "We didn't plan it, but we're not going to apologize for it either." "After I left," Liam's jaw tightened. "So what? I've been gone 3 months, and you two just, what, decided to play house?" "It's not like that," Elena said. "Liam, please try to understand." "Understand what? That my best friend is sleeping with my mother?" Liam's voice rose. "That the two people I trust most in the world have been lying to me?" "We haven't lied," Noah said, even though they both knew it wasn't entirely true. "We just didn't tell you yet because we wanted to make sure it was real." "And is it? Real?" Noah looked at Elena, saw the fear and love in her eyes, then turned back to Liam. "Yes, I'm in love with her." Liam laughed, the sound bitter. "Of course you are. This is just—" He ran his hands through his hair, pacing. "I don't even know what to do with this. You're 23, Noah. She's my mother. This is insane." "I know how it looks," Elena said quietly. "But Liam, I haven't felt this way about anyone in years. Noah makes me happy. And yes, the age difference is significant, but we're both adults making an informed choice." "An informed choice?" Liam's expression hardened. "Did your informed choice include thinking about how this would affect me? About how messed up this is?" "Of course it did," Noah said. "We knew this would be hard for you. But Liam, I can't apologize for loving her, and I can't give her up just because it's complicated." Liam stared at them both, something breaking in his expression. "I need air. I need to think." He grabbed his jacket and left, the front door slamming behind him. Elena sank into a chair, her face pale. Noah stood frozen, listening to Liam's car start and drive away. "That went about as well as expected," Elena said, her voice hollow. "He'll come back. He just needs time to process." "And if he doesn't? If this is it?" Noah knelt beside her chair, taking her hands. "Then we deal with it. But Elena, I meant what I said. I'm not giving you up." She pulled him close, and they stayed like that, holding each other while the dinner they'd made grew cold on the table. Micah played obliviously in the living room, unaware that the family he'd come to know was fracturing. Liam came back 3 hours later. Noah and Elena were on the couch, Micah asleep upstairs, when they heard his key in the door. He looked exhausted, his eyes red like he'd been crying. "I'm not okay with this," he said without preamble. "I don't know if I ever will be, but you're both adults, and I can't stop you." "Liam," Elena started. "Let me finish, please." Liam sat in the armchair, his posture defeated. "I spent the last 3 hours driving around, thinking about every possible angle of this situation. And the truth is, I'm angry. I'm hurt. I feel betrayed by both of you." "We understand," Noah said. "But," Liam continued, "I also spent a lot of time thinking about how happy you both looked at dinner, how comfortable you are together. And I realized that in all the years since Dad left, I've never seen Mom look at anyone the way she looks at you, Noah." Elena's breath caught. "I don't like this," Liam said, his voice rough. "I think it's weird and complicated and probably going to blow up eventually. but I also love you both too much to cut you out of my life over it." "Thank you," Elena whispered, tears streaming down her face. "Don't thank me yet. I have conditions." Liam looked between them. "First, complete honesty from now on. No more secrets, no more hiding things to protect me. If this is real, then I need to be able to trust that you'll both be straight with me." "Done," Noah said immediately. "Second, you give this a real shot. If I'm going to accept my best friend dating my mother, then it better not be some fling that falls apart in 6 months. You both commit to actually trying." "We are committed," Elena said. "This isn't casual for either of us." "Good. And third," Liam's voice cracked slightly, "you make each other happy. Really happy. Because if I'm going to live with this, I need to know it's worth it." Noah stood and crossed to his friend, offering his hand. Liam stared at it for a moment, then pulled Noah into a hug instead. They held each other, and Noah felt Liam shaking slightly. "I'm sorry," Noah said into his friend's shoulder. "For all of it. For the lying, for how complicated this is. But I'm not sorry for loving her." "I know." Liam pulled back. "Just take care of her, okay? She deserves someone who's all in." "I am, I promise." Liam turned to Elena, who stood and hugged her son fiercely. "I love you," she said, "and I'm so sorry for hurting you." "I love you too, Mom, even when you make terrible decisions." Elena laughed through her tears. "Is that what this is? A terrible decision?" Jury's still out. But Liam was smiling slightly. "But if anyone can make it work, I guess it's you two." The rest of Liam's visit was tentatively peaceful. He didn't bring up the relationship again, but Noah caught him watching them sometimes, his expression complicated. The morning Liam left to drive back to Seattle, he pulled Noah aside. "I meant what I said. You hurt her, and best friend or not, I'll make your life hell." "I know, I won't." "Good." Liam glanced toward the house where Elena was saying goodbye to Micah. "She's been alone a long time. Don't make her regret taking a chance on you." "I'll spend the rest of my life making sure she doesn't." Liam nodded, seeming satisfied. Then he grinned, some of his usual lightness returning. "This is still weird, though, like really weird." "Yeah, it is. But weird might be okay. Eventually." They shook hands, then embraced, and Noah felt something in his chest settle. They'd survived the conversation. Liam was hurt, but healing. And while things weren't perfect, they were moving in the right direction. The months that followed were a process of adjustment. Liam called more frequently at first, as if checking in to make sure Noah and Elena were still together, still committed. Gradually, his acceptance deepened, and by Christmas, when he came home again, the awkwardness had faded into something almost comfortable. Noah's design business grew enough that he could contribute equally to household expenses. He and Elena settled into a rhythm that felt sustainable, raising Micah together in the house that had started as temporary shelter and become home. Some of Elena's friends had opinions about the age difference, but she learned to ignore them. Noah's parents were shocked when he finally told them, but they came around when they saw how happy he was. Sophie resurfaced briefly when Micah turned 3, wanting to reconnect, but she took one look at Noah's life, the stable home, the partner who clearly adored him, the way Micah was thriving, and stepped back. She sent money occasionally and called on birthdays, which was more than Noah had expected and less than Micah would eventually need. But that was a bridge to cross later. On a Saturday morning, 6 months after that first Thanksgiving confession, Noah woke to find Elena already up, standing by the window watching snow fall in the backyard. Micah was still asleep, the house quiet except for the soft sound of Elena breathing. "You okay?" Noah asked, crossing to wrap his arms around her from behind. "More than okay." Elena leaned back into him. "I was just thinking about how different life looks now compared to a year ago." "Better different?" "Terrifying different, but yes, better." She turned in his arms, her expression soft. "You know what I realized?" "What?" "That maybe the story we tell ourselves about how life is supposed to go isn't always the right story. Maybe sometimes the best thing that can happen is the thing you never saw coming." Noah kissed her forehead. "Are you getting philosophical on me before coffee?" "Maybe. Is it working?" "Yeah, it is." They stood together watching the snow fall, and Noah thought about everything that had led them here. The desperation of moving in, the forbidden attraction that had consumed them both, The guilt and the lying and the terrible, wonderful choice to pursue something impossible. Liam's anger and eventual acceptance. The slow building of a life that made no conventional sense but somehow worked anyway. It wasn't the story Noah had expected to tell. Not the one where the single dad found stability with someone his own age and rebuilt his life in neat, acceptable ways. But it was his story. Messy and complicated and real. And standing there with Elena in the quiet house they'd made a home, with his son sleeping upstairs and a future stretching out before them full of possibility, Noah couldn't imagine wanting any other story but this one. "I love you," he said, because it was true, and he could say it now without fear. "I love you too," Elena replied, and in her voice Noah heard everything they'd survived and everything they were still becoming. The snow continued to fall, blanketing the world outside in quiet white. And inside, in the warmth of the house where Noah had once been a desperate guest, he held the woman he loved and felt, for the first time in longer than he could remember, completely at home.